everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back again because we have just finished up TNG number 42, Infiltrator. Infiltrator. Who is the Infiltrator? I don't know. But Worf and Riker look awfully suspicious. This is a book by W.R Thompson, who I know nothing about. This is the first novel that I've read by them. But let's just kind of dive right into the book here. Genetically engineered infiltrators bring the USS Enterprise to the brink of a new eugenics war. Now, from the back. Centuries ago, followers of the tyrant Khan Noonien Singh left the Earth for the planet Hera to continue his experiment in selective breeding. Now they are finally ready to launch their plan of universal domination with the USS Enterprise as their weapon. Captain Picard must enlist the help of Heran expatriate Astrid Kamal to defeat their fellow super beings. Unless the captain and her crew of the Enterprise can stop them, the Heran infiltrators could alter their genetic landscape for the galaxy for generations to come. Oh, they give away a little bit too much in the back there. I don't think that they should have, well, I guess they don't really give away too much. It is somewhat vague, but it really doesn't, I don't know. It was an okay blurb. I guess it doesn't give away too much. But now, let's go and look at our book about books here and see what the author had to say about his book. There was that wretched episode about a genetically engineered bottle society. Aside from the strange opposition to genetic engineering, which must have been thought up by someone who has never dealt with chronic illness, there was Geordi's inexplicable bad manners towards a genetically engineered character. Geordi is one of my top two favorite Trek characters, and I felt a need to explain why he behaved that way. I think that worked out nicely. Plus, I like the idea of an alien sneaking aboard the Enterprise to observe Worf and his Klingon virtues. Writing... Oh. Alright. Writing the manuscript took about 4 months, and again, it was fun. Some changes had to be made to keep it in line with the Trek background, but I survived. Oh, interesting. And that actually kind of opens up a little bit more for me, I guess. Knowing that's kind of how he went into writing it. So anyway, this was written by W.R. Thompson, published in 1996, coming in at 279 pages, and is, before we jump into the book too much, just a very interesting little mystery, kind of. It's not what you expect going in, and it does introduce some new characters, and it kind of seems to go off in a different direction than you're expecting, but that's the whole point in the end, I think. And it comes together well, even though it's kind of a strange path to get where they're going. And there are some very silly moments, and there are some very funny moments, and a few moments that really were like laugh out loud for me with this one. So definitely enjoyed it a lot. I would say it is a Worf book, most of all. He's the feature character. He gets most of the fun stuff, most of the laughs. And the new character that they introduce, this Astrid Kamal, who's one of these genetically enhanced Herons, is very interesting as well, too. So they introduce, quite a few new characters, which leaves, less to do for the TNG cast. Counselor Troy, I think, barely had anything involved here. And really just, other than Worf, everybody else kind of played a small bit part in the book. But it was a great ride. It was very fun. And actually, I said I just finished it like mere minutes ago and was just happy to jump on and start talking about it because it really does cover a lot of interesting, different things. And it covers, I don't know, it seems like it's a book that kind of goes all over the place, but kind of keeps it together enough where it's very interesting and well done. And I had a good time with it. So let's jump right into it. So the book starts out on the planet Hera, showing these two kind of members of the rebellion, basically, kind of talking about their plan to sabotage the Unity. You don't know what the Unity is yet, but they're going to sabotage some ship that's going to be taking off. And this is Marla and her husband Lee Secoy. And Lee is going to be the one going on to sabotage the ship to stop the Unity from happening. So they give you that at the very beginning to kind of give you a little taste of, maybe what's going on this planet. And then they introduce you to the new character, this Astrid Kamal. And Astrid is a brilliant scientist who's kind of like on loan from the planet, I think it's like Zirkalon. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm gonna write Zirkalo down. And she's on loan from Zirkalo, a brilliant scientist, but she appears to be like very clumsy. But she's on loan to kind of help out the Enterprise. And also on loan at this time, so again, a book has like a lot of new characters in it. You have a Payuk, which is like a rock spider alien. And he's on loan to the Federation in kind of a similar situation where Riker went to the Klingon ship and the Klingon officer went to the Enterprise. They exchange officers to learn about each other's cultures and that kind of thing. So this spider, his name is Kasa, and his culture is like completely different from human culture, where he sees someone who is being polite as ready to kill them, and someone who is being rude as someone who is, dealing with them like naturally at face value. So they're kind of like backwards. So it's just kind of an interesting start to the book. And then you have immediately where he kind of crosses paths with Kamal, and Kamal shows him up in an arm wrestling contest, kind of much to everyone's surprise. So at this point in the book, they rescue, or they come upon the remains of the destroyed ship, the Temenis, which was the one that was sabotaged in the beginning. And they rescue two of the Herons that were like in an escape pod. Everyone else is dead. Blaisdell and Dunbar, and they bring him on board the ship. So, and immediately, like, they are kind of, I don't know, they're suspicious, and it's one of those books where you don't know exactly who at first to trust, but of course, that these two are up to no good. But then they have all these kind of other kind of background things going on where you might not know if there's something else that's happening as well. But the ship, of course, the Temenis, that was destroyed by the earlier saboteurs, Lee Secoy. So their mission was successful. But as soon as these people come on board, people on the Enterprise start to feel a little under the weather. So they have brought some sort of sickness with them. At the same time, they're like working, on the ship to kind of subvert people, and they actually attempt to murder Worf. And Worf is kind of like the one who's like on top of things, and he's the most suspicious, I guess, of everyone right now. So they're going to try to take him out, but luckily he's saved at the last moment by Dr. Kamal. Now, when Worf tries to fight one of these Herons, he's basically treated like a child and easily beaten, and then the guy was going to make it look like he died of a natural virus or something like that going on. Dr. Kamal comes in, not just comes in, but like breaks through the sliding doors of, so like the whole time when this book is going on, like they're always talking about the strength of these Herons, and it's like incredible strength, and they keep exaggerating how strong they are. And again, she busts through the door and then kills this Dunbar. She kills Dunbar with basically like a couple of swift kicks to the side, and he's done for. And then they arrest Blaisdell, and that's when they introduce another new character into this Admiral Trask. And this Trask is being sent in now to kind of head the situation, and he's wanting to take take the Herons into custody right away. So automatically now you're suspicious of this guy as well. So, like, it's kind of like suspicions from everywhere. Uh, at this point in the story, Dr. Kamal reveals that she is a Heron expatriate, and she has been sent. She was and her parents left Hera when she was a child, and she has spent years living on planet Zerkalo. So, and then Zerkalo is an interesting planet too. It's like a planet of kind of like limited government, uh, very active in protecting their citizens on the planet. So the kind of main point in the story comes around now, and it's revealed what the Unity is basically. And Blaisdell and Dunbar have infected the crew of the Enterprise with this virus called the Unity. And what it does is it will make any humans that have this, any of their offspring will be genetically Heron. So basically they modified their genetics throughout like all the humans that catch this, and from then on out they would only produce Herons genetically. So of course everyone is appalled by this, and they look for a cure for it, turn to Dr. Crusher, but the Heron's concept of medicine and everything is like so far above the Federation that there's just no chance that they can do anything to stop it from happening. They're going to have some kind of inside help. So now here my notes end, and I just kind of read the book and I stopped taking notes, and that was some way about halfway through. So from here on out, we're just going to be flying by the seat of our pants, and hoping we don't forget too much and we don't tell you the wrong story. But the story really does shift kind of from here. So the Herons basically at this point declare war on the Federation, and they send more ships into the Federation, and the Herons are led by this central government called the Modality. Okay, and of course then there's this resistance cell which is fighting against what the Modality is wanting to do. So it's going to kind of come down to that, as we get closer to the end. But anyway, the Enterprise is approaching the planet, and in addition to that, a Starfleet fleet is approaching the planet. On the way, that fleet gets attacked and harried by some Heron fleet, and in an interesting move, like, the Herons don't immediately like attack to kill. It's more like kind of attacks and feints and things like that. And then they actually end up taking quite a few prisoners before they leave. So it's not quite what was expected of maybe like this aggressive, species. So, but then the fleet continues on, and of course, with having lost some ships and some people, there were some casualties. But it seems like that the response from the Herons isn't as great or as big as maybe it would or should be. So the Enterprise is en route, and of course Picard's mission is to make peace. Trask has come on board the Enterprise, found out about Kamal, has her arrested, thinking that she's like the undercover agent. There have been some secret transmissions and some other kind of shenanigans going on, targeting Worf, and nobody's been able to really figure out what's been going on. So it's a little bit more mystery layer added to it right there. And so they end up locking up Kamal. And this really upsets Picard, and where he's kind of like, we are treating her as a criminal when she's not done anything. All she is because she's a member of this species. So some interesting stuff there where he's kind of fighting back against this Trask, who seems to be just against Herons entirely, and he's pushing back against him. Eventually, Picard is able to get Kamal out of the brig after it's revealed that she couldn't have sent the communications or whatever. But so anyway, now they're on their way to Hera to begin their final plan to do something. So when they get there, the idea that they have is they have to contact the local resistance, and they know that there must be some resistance because of what happened to the ship earlier and the sabotage and all that. So Riker beams down with Kamal and Geordi, and I think Worf, and also the Spider-Man Kasa. So they all beam down to Hera to search out this resistance, and they're able to find it. But, and like kind of what was one of the weirder parts of the books, though, is when that happened, and when that was going on, that's when the Federation fleet arrived, and they also called upon the help of the Klingon fleet. So now the Klingon and the Federation fleet have arrived at Hera, and have basically surrounded it and kind of obliterated their space defenses already, and have sent down ground troops already to the planet. This is where it starts to actually get a little bit silly and fun. And I wondered what made this person want to do this, and I appreciate that they did, because it was good. So anyway, you have this like ground battle raging on where they're trying to break through the defenses of the modality headquarters. And they can't get close to it. It has some sort of field around it that, stops people from getting near it. However, they determine that even though energy weapons and typical weapons are not able to attack it, it is still prone to being hit with just like a large rock, say from a catapult. So they replicate all these catapults, and they replicate all these big balls, and the Klingon invasion crew is down there launching catapults to knock this thing down and get into the tower. I don't know. To me, it was kind of silly. It was fun, but it was very weird. It's a weird place to go from there. But anyway, yes, they used catapults in the end to breach the modality, and eventually basically convince them to agree to a ceasefire and a surrender. And they kind of talked their way through doing this by having the planet Zerkalo agree to join the Federation and kind of be the trustee planet for the Herons. That way the Herons, who were distrustful of the old humans, would be, kind of instead watched over by a planet of mostly non-humans. And it's an agreeable thing for everyone. Dr. Kamal becomes like the official commissioner to kind of keep charge of things, and it just turns into a very kind of cut and dry and good ending for everybody. So I am missing some things in that. Definitely more happened in the book Infiltrator by W.R. Thompson. I will say that there were several scenes in this that definitely were laugh out loud funny. And I had meant to write them down, and I surely didn't. But there was a scene where Worf came into a room. It was very good. There's also a very, very good Klingon opera scene, which I enjoyed very much. But again, the book was very interesting because it was not what I expected. Oh, again, as I read in the big book about books, it's revealed in the end too that the exchange officer, the spider guy, Kasa, was actually sent in as kind of a spy. And he was sent in as a spy to observe Klingon behavior because their culture was similar to the Klingons. However, they were constantly wiping each other out. So they wanted to see, how did the Klingons do it? How did the Klingons keep from wiping each other out? And they did it through this weird concept of honor, that the Klingons have. So that was another weird kind of side story in this book, which I was wondering where it was going to end up. And I kept wondering who was the infiltrator. Who indeed was the infiltrator? And I came to determine in the end, it was actually the spider guy, Kasa. He was infiltrating the Enterprise to learn about the Klingon culture. So, and that was a completely separate story from what was going on in the book, So, interesting little side bit that happened there. And I wonder if that's ever going to come to play again in a future novel. I haven't looked ahead to see if this guy writes anymore, or if this was his only foray into TNG or Trek literature. So, I did have fun with this one, though, I will say that. But, again, it was just very, very interesting where it ended up and how these different kind of threads went together. So, I had a good time with it, though, and I would definitely recommend it. Now, What's next, you might ask? We got it. We found it. We didn't have it before, but thankfully, thanks to our new Federation headquarters nearby, we're going to be jumping into Ragnarok, Voyager number 3. So I got into the Voyager series and I wanted to continue it, but I had 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that. So now that I got this, I can kind of dive into Voyager a little bit more. Then we can mix that back and forth between some TNG and a lot of other fun stuff. So that's it for all the book talk that we have for tonight. Read Infiltrator for some laughs and some fun and some interesting stuff. As always, everybody, live long and prosper, and we'll see you guys in the next video.